Welcome to Giants Top 100 Players presented by Bud Light. We're going to look at players 71 through 80 on the top 100 in the history of the New York Football Giants. I'm Bob Papa, joined by one of the voters, Gary Myers. Let's explain how we got to this process. We selected an independent blue ribbon panel made up of Hall of Fame voters like Gary, league officials, historians, to take a look at all of the men who have played for the New York Giants in the 99 years of Giants football. And we've come up with the list of the top 100. And Gary, it was a fun exercise, and we've got Pepper Johnson and Jeff Hostetler part of this group with us, but it was really kind of cool going through the Giants' history, wasn't it?
It really was, and with these two guys, I was around them a lot during their Giant careers. They each have 2 Super Bowl rings. When it came time to vote, no question these guys were going to be on my list.
Jeff, you come in on the list at number 79 in the top 100 of all time. What was the thing that hit you most when you found out that you had made this list?
Well, I was kind of speechless. To be part of this 100 is really, really special because it's such an amazing group of talented football players, but it spans this organization that's top of the line. So to be part of that is pretty special.
Hostetler throws end zone. Touchdown, Baker!
Jeff, had that 1 month of the playoffs and the Super Bowl change your life?
Well, 6 weeks earlier before that Super Bowl, I'd had it. 7 years I'd been waiting, and the frustration had just been boiling over, and I knew I could play. And I had a couple opportunities earlier in the season, brought us back against the Cardinals, and win one at the very end. And then Parcells, out of the blue, while we were playing the Cowboys, threw me in. Game still on the line. It was testing me and threw me in. We were able to drive down. I think I scored on a scramble. And I thought, wow, I'm finally getting the opportunity. And then it just disappeared. And that Wednesday before the Bills' regular season game, I just told my wife, I said, that's it. I'm done. At the end of the season, I can't do it anymore. And I was just frustrated. And 6 weeks later, I'm standing at a podium with 2 of my sons and my pregnant wife having just won the Super Bowl. So, it changed a lot of things. It changed, the confidence level as far as you knew you could do it, you thought you could do it, but until you actually go out and do it. And then Mr. Mara, at the time, I was thrilled to be able to be part of winning the Super Bowl for him, but he was absolutely thrilled for me. And to see me reap the benefits of being patient and persevering through that time, that was huge. So there's only 34 guys that could say they quarterbacked a Super Bowl winning team. And that's a pretty small group to be part of. So I'm privileged to be part of that. Again, that just wasn't me. That was this whole team and this whole team rallying around. And people remember Super Bowls, and especially Giants Super Bowls. So to be one of the guys that have quarterbacked a Giants Super Bowl team is pretty special, and I've been real blessed.
Pepper Johnson at number 75 on this list. Pepper, you were pretty surprised because you were kind of looking at it, entire history of the Giants. I mean, you broke into a room that had Lawrence Taylor and Harry Carson and Carl Banks and a lot of other good linebackers. To be considered one of those has to be pretty special.
Yes, well, Jeff kind of took the words out of my mouth. I was shocked. Being a part of the history of the Giants and in the top 100 was an honor and a privilege. I kind of was a little speechless when I got the news, but I was that guy that I prayed and I wanted to be drafted by the Giants because I wanted to be a part of that linebacker crew, because just watching from afar, that was a group of guys that I thought stood strong, stayed together, played well together, and the Giants just kept good linebackers, and I wanted to be a part of that, which came true.
So Jeff, Pepper's looking at it like, all right, they're going to have 4 on the field. Sometimes they'll rotate guys in and out based on what they do well. You get drafted. Where am I going to go?
Yeah.
Other than maybe being a gunner on punts and stuff like that? I mean,
hey, I did it.
I know.
And did everything I could. I ran the ball, caught a pass, blocked a punt before I ever threw one in the NFL. I was trying everything I could to get out on the field. And I was behind a guy that, Phil, he was throwing the heck out of the ball and playing really, really well. and wasn't a chance to go anywhere else to play. And so I wanted to get out on the field, but I just didn't have the opportunities. And so that was a frustrating time in my career. And you think about 7 years. 7 years is a long, long time. And then all of a sudden the opportunity arises, and then be able to take advantage of it. That's pretty special. And to be one of 3 guys that can say they quarterbacked the New York Giants to a Super Bowl is pretty special, especially with this organization.
Yeah, it was a great photo at the stadium for a charitable event of you, Phil, and Eli, the only 3 Super Bowl winning quarterbacks. How important was it? Carl Banks likes to tell this story, and Pepper, I know you agree, and a lot of other guys, they practiced against you all the time. So a lot of times in today's world, the quarterback goes down, it's like, oh man, we're done, season's over. I remember Carl telling me at the time, we're going to be fine. The fact that your teammates had your back and believed in you more than the outside world believed in you.
Well, I got chills all over, because that's what happened. I mean, whenever Phil went down, we had lost 3 out of 4 games. Everybody jumped off the bandwagon, and I was the weak link. They said it couldn't be done. Pepper, I don't know if you remember, him and Big Dog William Roberts, they used to joke around and yell, "Yeah, they say it can't be done. They couldn't be done. He can't do it." Yeah. And it was never that way in the locker room. Each one of those guys, especially this linebacker group, I mean, those guys, they rallied around me. They supported me.
A lot of guys kept, thinking that Haas wasn't going to do it, a backup quarterback, big game. He never been in this type of situation. He was like our secret weapon.
I just felt that they had confidence in me. And each one of my teammates was really genuinely happy that I had the opportunity. And I think they believed and knew that I could get the job done through practicing against these guys. And to have these guys, especially that defensive unit behind you and rally behind you and know that they had your back, that made things a little bit easier.
Jeff, I want to tell you a story. Over the years, I've talked to Phil a lot and about the Hall of Fame. And I say, well, if you hadn't gotten hurt and you had been the quarterback in the 2nd Super Bowl instead of Haas, you'd probably be in the Hall of Fame by now. And he says, don't take for granted that if I had played straight through, that I could have done what Jeff did, because his mobility helped win the games against San Francisco in the championship game and the Super Bowl against Buffalo. How does that make you feel that he's saying, well, listen, if I had played, we might not have won, because what Jeff's strengths were really played into what we needed to do in those games?
That means an awful lot. I mean, I'd never heard that, and that's a huge compliment. And Parcells paid me a huge compliment years after, and I saw him, and he just said, people don't realize how difficult a position that you were in and how difficult a job that you did and accomplished to be able to help lead your team into a victory in the Super Bowl. And just to hear those things after was pretty special. But it really all started inside that locker room, because when Phil went down, guys were upset for Phil, but they were really happy for me for the opportunity. And guys knew that, we were going to be okay. And for me to see that and the confidence, especially guys like Pepper and Big Dog, that meant an awful lot.
Speaking of Big Dog, he's number 80 on the list. A 2-time Super Bowl champion like you guys. Let's talk a little bit about William Roberts, the teammate and the player.
Yeah, him and Carl Banks, I had a relationship with those guys before I even, got to the Giants. Carl just being that guy, we both from the state of Michigan. And William Roberts was actually my host on my visit to Ohio State when I went to Ohio State. So I got to play with him in college and then, come to the Giants, and it was beautiful. Then, of course, he took me in, because back then we were always scared. Like, I didn't know if I was going to make the team or not. Now, everybody tell me, Pepper, that's ridiculous. You a 2nd-round draft pick, you was on the team. I was like, no. Parcells told us, the rookies in the room, the Giants was like a train, and we're already moving, that he don't need any of us that was in the room. It's our job to run, jump on board, and if you don't know how to shovel coal, you better learn how to shovel coal and keep this drain running, because we have people. But William Roberts, going back to William Roberts, what he did, he took me in. I stayed with William. I stayed with him until I ended up finding me a place. So that's my big bro. And, he took care of me in that aspect. So I am very, very happy to see him, be a part of this group as much as I am.
And that was a duo too, those two. You know?
Right.
And just team-wise, because of their demeanor, Pepper, he's always got a smile, and he's got that laugh, that infectious laugh. And William, man, he was always upbeat. He was loud, he was boisterous, he would joke around. You just needed guys like that because they kept a little bit more of the focus on trying to have some fun, and I think that's really valuable.
Did you ever give them a hard time about that dance at the midfield in the Rose Bowl?
Hey, Parcells told us, no celebrating until confetti. So,
what did you guys call that dance?
Stump and grind. That was William. It's all William. He showed me that, and I kind of gave a little sneak preview in the Frisco game when I got an interception. I should have scored.
Pass picked off by Pepper Johnson. Johnson inside the 15. Pepper Johnson down to the 5.
I let a quarterback tackle me. No offense, Jeff. Jeff tackled me. That's a whole different beast. I think I told you that before.
Yeah.
That's a step I haven't seen before.
I like that one. The thing about Pepper, he doesn't stop celebrating quickly.
But I was so happy. Interception playoffs as a rookie.
Hey, I want to ask you about a guy on this list, number 76, Gary Reasons. Talk about Gary as a player and what made him such an effective player.
Gary he wanted to hit everything that was moving. And the first thing I think of was in Denver when we was out there in the snow and he'd go and hit Bobby Humphreys on the goal line.
Elway wants the crowd to be quiet. He's having trouble having his men hear the signals. 4th down at the goal line. About a foot to go. Elway, hands off. They dive. Stopped! The Giants broke through. Gary Reasons.
Great play by Gary Reasons. Reading it, he came from about 3 yards into the end zone, threw his body right at Humphrey and crumbled him.
What a job. What a game.
It was things like that he brought to the table, his eagerness and keeping everybody together. When Harry left us and it was just us two, he stepped right up there and we didn't miss a beat.
Jeff, what about Gary as a teammate in making this list?
Well, I think back of the 49ers game and the fake punt. You see this big backer. Pads, this huge pads, and you see him start running, and just the agility, the speed, and it came as a surprise to us.
Fake punt, and it's going to work. It's Reasons. Reasons streaking down to inside the 25. First down and much, much more.
That's the call they needed. That's the play they needed. They needed something to get him out of this. Bill Parcells came up with it.
It was
What was he
unexpected.
pointing at?
I have
Who was
no
he
idea.
fooling?
I have no idea.
He was pointing like block this guy. Think that guy gonna turn around.
Walter Payton asking
Yeah.
to pick something up.
When did you guys find out that the 49ers only had 10 men on the field? Because I talked to Gary about this not that long ago.
Yeah.
He said that Parcells had told him as he was going onto the field, if you get the look, go ahead and run it.
Yeah.
It hit him right away that there was a player missing in one of the gaps. And so he immediately called an audible on that.
Yeah, and that's, you come out, that was part of the whole deal on special teams. You count, make sure they have everybody.
Yeah.
The fact that he did that and knew, all of a sudden, his mind's going, okay, they got one less, they got the look, and, what a great time to be able to do it and then perform it, and then for us to be able to turn around and go down and score and put it within a one-score game. That was huge. Big play.
30 yards, longest run of the game.
Yeah.
Let me ask you about another guy that was a teammate of yours with the Giants, Mark Haynes. He comes in at number 78 on the list.
Yeah.
Fantastic player, a couple Pro Bowls. Maybe some of his more notable games came as a member of another franchise, but he was a really tremendous player for the Giants.
Yeah, a big asset. Funny story though, I lockered beside him my rookie year, and he didn't say a word to me the whole year. And it wasn't until after the season, and was playing, the Giants had a basketball team that they put together, and we were playing basketball. And I finally had the guts to, just say, hey, why wouldn't you ever talk to me? And he looked right at me and just said, hey, I never talk to rookies. And it was, the whole thing was, I don't know whether they're going to be here or not. And, it's just my philosophy, and that's what it was.
Drops it. He's still on the ground, and look out. Could be touchdown Giants. It is.
It is. Touchdown Giants. Mark Haynes is the man who scored the touchdown.
Number 71 on this list is Antonio Pierce, and really was the soul of the 2007 Giants.
Yes.
Heart and the soul of it. It seems like his style of play and his grittiness and his football IQ probably would have fit well within your locker room.
Exactly. I've heard a lot. I met AP. Unfortunately, I wasn't out there on the field with him, but I coached against him. So I watched him play, and I watched him knock the mess out of people, and that was good. So he was really representing us, and we felt like it's been a long time coming.
Antonio Pierce, and he runs it in for a touchdown.
It was good to see another guy come in and just take over where we kind of left off, or we felt like we left off, because it was hard to find linebackers in the league, period.
Bob, of all the guys I've covered on the Giants over all these years, if I was to make a list of 10 who I thought would go into coaching, he would have been right at the top of the list, because he was that kind of guy in the locker room when we would go and talk to him, just very insightful with his football knowledge, and a real grinder.
Six. Pass, Sammy. Weak blitz white.
And the fact that he's become a head coach in the NFL now is really a testament to how much he wanted it.
Well, and his football IQ, the Giants do not beat the Packers in the 2007 NFC Championship game. It's near the end of the first half. Favre has finally gotten things under control, and they're driving the ball down the field, and they set up a backside screen, and there's 3 blockers ahead. But Antonio Pierce, through the film study, realized that they like to run that play, and he splits the 3 blockers and tackles the back.
Screen set up left, completes it, and then it's stood up by Antonio Pierce, who makes the play at the 19-yard line with a blocker on his back.
You talk about a great play by Antonio Pierce.
Or else it's a 25-yard touchdown, and I don't know if the Giants come back. But it was all football IQ, film study.
And look what he's got out in front of him. I mean, there's 3 blockers, and yet he's able to go through them.
Gary, I want to touch upon a couple guys that from my youth. Ron Johnson comes in at number 72, a fantastic running back, number 30.
Ron Johnson was one of my favorite players as a kid. He surprisingly got traded after his rookie year. The Browns had made him a first-round pick, and they played him at fullback. This guy was a tailback, and so he gets traded to the Giants, and in 1970 becomes the Giants' first 1,000-yard rusher. And
14 games, too.
Yeah, he and Fran Tarkenton together, and Tucker Frederickson was still on that team. When I look back at that period of time from 1964 to 1980, when the Giants didn't make the playoffs, there was a lot of good players on both sides of the ball during those 16, 17 years, but they could just never put it together.
Yeah.
If they had a good offense, the defense wasn't on the same level, or vice versa. Ron Johnson was one of those guys that could have played in any era and been productive in any era. He was that good.
One of my favorite Giants as a kid is number 77, John Mendenhall, 77 on this list. Number 64, he would line up in that point stance sideways.
John Mendenhall could have played on your guys' teams because he was that kind of player in the middle of a defense, kind of like a get down and dirty, defensive tackle type that, made a lot of big plays for those teams.
Don Chandler comes in at 73, Jack Gregory at 74. These were iconic players that unfortunately, just unlike these 2 guys that had a chance to play on championship teams, were great players that just didn't play on good teams.
Don Chandler, first few years of his career, he was just a punter because Pat Summerall was still in the Giants and he was the place kicker. And then he was both. I mean, you never see that anymore, a guy's a place kicker and a punter. Jack Gregory was another really productive player as a defensive end. Unfortunately, just during a period of time where the Giants weren't very good.
I think it's pretty amazing, though, those players and the talent with those players and not having won a Super Bowl or being on a championship team. Pepper and I both know. I mean, how fortunate, how lucky. You have to be a little bit lucky at times to be able to. You make your own luck.
Yeah.
You know, you prepare.
Exactly.
You get ready for it, and you prepare. But it's tough to get into the playoffs. It's tough to win a Super Bowl. It's tough to get to the Super Bowl. It's tough to win a Super Bowl. So, you know, for us to be able to, in a period of 5 years, have 2 Super Bowl championships, that's pretty special. And that's a pretty special group.
Yeah.
Giants have won Super Bowl 25.
You got 2 rings, and now forever, you're once a Giant, always a Giant, one of the top 100 Giants in the history of the franchise. Jeff, Pepper, thank you so much for joining us.
Appreciate
it. A lot
it.
of fun.
Thank you. Appreciate it.
Gary Myers, Jeff Hostetler, Pepper Johnson. Make sure you check out all the Giants programming as we continue our countdown and look ahead to the top 100 Giants in the history of the franchise. You've been watching the Giants' Top 100 Players, presented by Bud Light.